Alrighty then. So, got another one here for you by Headspace with Spiro. I do believe that he's also friends with Dapper Dev, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so most single men, they're alone and done with society, dating, and a social life, and millions feel the same way. And that really stood out to me. I resonate with that. So let's dive into it and see what he has to say.
This society, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely cooked. And you're going to see men, especially self-respecting men, want nothing to do with it. Like, I was talking to a subscriber who'd reached out to me earlier the other day, and he told me about when he was in university. He was working towards getting an engineering degree, which will be very secure, and he's doing actually very well for himself now. He was even able to purchase a home 2 years after graduating university. But he said while he was in college, he was living with his parents. Again, the smart thing to do, the financially smart decision where he didn't have to worry about those kind of things. Living with his parents, driving an older kind of beat up truck. And there were many times where he'd go on dates, have dates arranged, and when the girls saw his truck, they want nothing to do with him. But they'd rather be with a guy who has no money in his bank account, but drives a leased Mercedes C300 or has the latest iPhone, or has it, because I know people like this from your life who they'll have a $200 pair of sneakers on, all this kind of stuff, but have no money in the bank and have no plan to improve themselves with that kind of stuff. So it's absolutely insane. What that tells you is people do not care about us men as individuals. They just care about the superficial stuff. They care about the imagery. They care about what they can get. Everyone right now is trying to scam. They're trying to take advantage of people. It's really hard to trust people nowadays. And I'm not just talking about women or dating. I'm talking about in general. Like, even the other day, I was out getting an oil change. And this was a place I go to all the time. I've gone to for years. It's even the place that I bought the car from was a Jeep dealership. And after the oil change was done, they had called me and said that the engine was overheating and that there's an issue with a blown head gasket and that I need to pay something like $3,000 to fix it. And I said, okay, you know what? Give me some time. I'll think about it. Let me just take the car with me for now. And keep in mind, this was during the summer and the oil was low. So naturally the engine is going to be a little bit overheated. But what I came to find out was that the coolant was completely drained. There was no antifreeze or whatever in the car. And I had filled it. Car ran perfectly fine since. There was no engine overheating. I actually called them back because I was like, hey, what is this about? You guys are professional mechanics. How do you get this wrong? Basically, insinuating like you guys were straight up just trying to scam me, and they were gaslighting, dilly-dallying around the question, saying, oh, well, we weren't saying it was for sure a blown head gasket, but it's like, yet you wanted me to pay $3,000 out of pocket? It doesn't make any sense. And understand something.
Yeah, I would say that having a mechanic that you can trust, that is invaluable. So always find one that you can trust. I've found one that I can trust that won't try to pull that kind of shit. But yeah, there are a lot of people, especially now, that are they're living off credit, right? So from the outside, they look like they're well off because yeah, they may have a Beamer and the latest iPhone and all the latest gadgets, and they may even have a nice house, right? But they're actually broke. They are dead broke. They're financing everything. Their payments are probably sky high. Taking on, I don't know, like a 15-year car note or something crazy like that. But yeah, meanwhile, there are plenty of men who they live within their means. They have discernment. They don't try to keep up with the Joneses because they just don't care about that shit. And people make assumptions about them, thinking that they're poor or of a lower socioeconomic level than they actually are. But they're just good with their money. They don't have to keep up with the Joneses, right? They don't have to impress. But unfortunately, we live in a society that is very superficial, and both online and in the real world. Optics are everything, right? Attention is the currency. What you look like, what you drive, all of it, it matters to a lot of people. And people are simply less inclined to be drawn to you. Not everyone, but there are a lot of people that they are less inclined to be drawn to you if you don't look a certain way. Like I said, if you don't look like you're on their socioeconomic level, right? And to his point about trusting people, it is hard to trust people. And of course, he gave the example about his car, and that's been something that's been well known for a while. You get mechanics that try to scam you. I've I've experienced that myself. So you got to keep your wits about you in certain industries. But we do live in a low trust society, even before 2020. And it's certainly not gotten any better since then. And I know that that's a common thing to say and to hear, but I think that there's a lot of truth in it. A lot of things happen since 2020 to people's minds, and the gloves really came off in 2020. And I think that it's very smart when you're younger to either live below your means or at least within your means, and save as much money as you can. And if it is an option, live with your parents and work towards something that will actually set you up for success, so that you can support yourself, and so that you're something that will help your future self out. I know that's hard to do whenever you're young. You want to focus on the here and now and have fun. When I was 18, that was me. And I did live with my parents when I was 18. And after high school, I got a job at my dad's work unloading trucks. And so I was called a lumper. So what we did was we unloaded these trailers, these tractor trailers with pallet jacks and forklifts. And we broke down the pallets, and then we shrink wrapped them, so that the forklift drivers, they could come by and they could just pick them up and put them up in the stills where they were going to be stored. And it was a food distribution warehouse on the perishable side. So it was a refrigerated warehouse. It was cold. I had to be there at 5 a.m. And it was brutal work. It was back-breaking work, but I got pretty ripped doing it. But where I went wrong was I took over my brother's car payments for his 99 Camaro. And so this was back in 2003. And also I was making $10 an hour at that job. So minimum wage back then, I believe, was $5.15. So I was making double minimum wage. So it was actually quite a bit. I was making quite a bit for an 18-year-old at that time. But yeah, I made the stupid decision to take over my brother's fancy car payments. I believe the payment was just south of $400. And then the insurance, since I was 18, I had one accident on my record, I think from an accident I had when I was 16. My insurance was, I think it was around $300. And also it was a sports car too, so that didn't help. But yeah, I 100% shot myself in the foot for doing that and making that decision when I should have. I wish my dad would have talked me out of it. He didn't, unfortunately. Not to say it's my dad's fault, but what I should have done was just saved up some cash from that job and then just bought a beater. But in addition to that bad decision, that bad financial move that I had made, I was also hanging around the wrong people, and I inevitably got into drugs, because I was also working really early and I started taking caffeine pills, but then I got introduced to harder drugs and things went downhill from there. So if you're an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old dude right now listening to this, bro, if you have the opportunity to live with your parents and live within your means and set your future self up for success by focusing on working in acquiring skills and deciding on a career path, dude, do it. Do that, please. I'm telling you. I understand. Have your fun, but don't be an idiot. Don't make the same mistake that I did. If you can, cut as many costs as possible and save as much money as possible. However, also look towards investments. This is not financial advice, by the way, because yeah, we're dealing with central banking. You can't outwork monetary policy, and the value of your money, or I should say your currency, not your money, is going down every single day. So, but do what you can to hold on to the wealth that you do have and keep accumulating more. Okay, I did not do that. I had no good head on my shoulders at that point. So don't do what I did at all. All right.
When people talk about this kind of decline in society and stuff like that, understand that this has happened because of a shunning of masculine values. When you have men acting masculine, you're not going to have these kind of things. You're not going to have manipulation. You're not going to have dishonesty. You're not going to have people trying to take advantage and play one another. You're not going to have people who are so insecure, because those are not masculine traits. And the big problem is now you have a lot of women who are not only raising kids throughout their own children biologically, but also in the school system, because an overwhelming majority of teachers are women. But I see a lot of women who are taking their anger out.
Right. All right. Before he gets there, so masculine republics give way to feminine democracies, and feminine democracies give way to tyranny. I believe that quote is from Aristotle. I've heard it being attributed to someone else, some other historical figure, but I believe that the original source was Aristotle. And it is true. That's what we're seeing. However, I do disagree with him about the manipulation and dishonesty. You will always have that, because we're human, right? That's just human nature. You will have manipulation, you will have dishonesty, but you'll have less of it when there's justice and real consequences, when you have a masculine republic versus a feminine democracy. But yeah, at least certainly more justice and real consequences than we're seeing right now, because we do live in a feminized society. And we have a lot of men that are being raised by single moms, and the single mother rate has jumped throughout the decades, and it's been producing men who have not had proper discipline in their lives. And they will emulate the wrong types of influence. They'll look for a father figure, and they'll emulate the men that are doing the wrong things. They'll mistake masculinity for something that is not masculine. It's just something that will land them in jail, or in the principal's office, whatever. So, but we're just producing these men with no real sense of duty. And yeah, this lack of masculine influence in their lives, it inevitably does catch up with them, because they were not properly disciplined when they were younger. That's what young boys need. They need a man to set them straight and properly discipline them. And to his point, I've mentioned this before, most teachers are women. Zooming out K through 12, I believe it's 77% of the teachers are women, and then the 23% are men. Then if you zoom in and look at pre-K and elementary, it's about 89 to 98% are female. And then with middle school, it's around 72%, 72 to 80% are female. And then high school, it's 60 to 64% are female. And if you look at private schools versus public schools, there's not really much of a difference. I think in 2022, I think it was close to 77% of public school teachers were female, and then it was a little over 75% of private school teachers were women. So, but yeah, he's about to talk about something that I resonate with.
On their sons,
sounds like
taking that anger from the fathers, whether it's from husbands, ex-husbands, whatever trauma it might be,
yeah,
taking it out on even boys in school in some cases, things I dealt with when I was younger. And the reality is, that is the most sick, depraved thing I could think of. Using someone's biological son or biological kid as a manipulation tactic, bargaining chip, whatever you want to call it, form of spite towards the man, is one of the most sick things you can think of. No matter how you feel about what happened, there are two sides to every story. No matter how you feel about that, understand something. A kid, especially a son, growing up without a father in their life, without a male role model in their life, is a travesty, no matter which way you want to put it. No matter which way you want to put it. I don't care what anyone thinks about that. It is a travesty. I had a good friend of mine growing up, actually my best friend in high school. I used to go over to his house all the time, and the whole time, his mother would just be complaining about his biological father, who he had not seen since he was about 5 years old. You know, one of the only masculine figures that he had in his life as a kid. And she's there trying to slander him the whole time. So this guy's going to grow up now thinking that his father was a bad guy, being raised by a single mother, thinking that masculinity is bad. And the worst part is, a lot of the time when men are lost, because I understand that there are cases where, I've known friends of mine who unfortunately had fathers pass away when they were younger. There are obviously stepdads and people like that who are there. Although I understand it's not easy understandably, it's not easy for a single mother to find someone who's willing to take that position. But my point being is that you have people who now they're going to go look for masculine figures. The first place they look at probably what they see on the media. They're going to try to emulate that. And the reality is, a lot of the time, those are not real masculine role models. They're just not. They don't exhibit masculine behavior. And that's why you have so many men growing up lost. That's why you have so many men growing up confused. Like, this is easily the most selfish, self-centered generation probably of all time. And unfortunately, I'm here. I'm part of it. You know, I'm having to deal with.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I was saying earlier, it's they're emulating the wrong men. They're searching for a father figure, and that's the reason why men have so many men have depression, and they end up in the system, right? Getting arrested and getting into drugs, things like that. And when it comes to family court, of course, men have a huge disadvantage especially if they're trying to remain an influential part of their child's life, especially if they're dealing with a vindictive mother, and it's not uncommon for children to be used as a weapon against the father. It flies below the radar. The system generally doesn't touch it that much. And I talk a lot. I talk to a lot of men in my private calls that are going through some form of that. And of course I have firsthand experience as well. But it's one of the reasons that a lot of men, they end up hopeless and deciding to self-delete because of the pain and being kept from their children and not being respected as the father and being pushed out. If you haven't been there, I understand that it's hard for you to understand what that's like, but for all of you men that have gone through that, you understand the pain of it and the isolation that's involved. And the court system, the family court system, it's run by attorneys. It is. In most US jurisdictions, you generally have to be a licensed attorney to serve as a judge in family court, right? So the ones that handle divorce and custody and abuse cases. And that usually requires years of legal practice. And I think it's like over 30 states that do allow non-lawyer judges in certain low-level local courts, but that is rare if you're talking about high-stakes family cases. And a lot of boys, they will hear from their mothers. When I made the video that really launched my channel, which was we were raised by women who hated men, a lot of men in my comment section were talking about how, yeah, my mom would weaponize this phrase, "You're just like your father," anytime he would be acting up. And that damages a child and it sticks with them into adulthood. And in a lot of cases, the dad that's out of the picture, he was unjustly pushed out and unjustly kept from his child, for his children. But if you look at it from both sides, not just the father's side, but it's also the child. It's the child who is unjustly kept from their father. And that conditions the child to think negatively about their father when the father wasn't what the mother said he was. And now not only is the mother alienating the father, but now the child is as well. The child is alienating the father. And that's what leads a lot of men down that road of hopelessness and self-deletion. Because it is a painful road to be on. Parental alienation is no joke. It is devastating.
With this kind of stuff, and it's, again, my mental health has been so much better since getting off social media. I was going to make an Instagram account for the channel, but I was like, you know what?
But real quick, so masculinity has been pathologized, especially in school. And boys, they need men in their lives. First, they need their fathers, and then they also need strong male role models, right? Their family, their uncles, their brothers. And we really don't have that anymore. We no longer have the building blocks of a healthy society. And the more weak men you create, the harder life gets, right? It's the whole hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and then weak men create hard times, right? We're in that cycle of weak men create hard times. And I'm hoping we can get to that point where hard times can create strong men again, because we're about to see some really hard times, especially economically. I mean, we're already seeing them, but they're not going to get any better. Just doing the math. But he mentioned stepdads, and I always strongly discourage any man from taking the responsibility of being a stepdad or just dating a single mom at all. If you have the choice and you have the options, don't do it. I mean, even if you do, I'd say you're better off just being alone. It's not a smart move. It's just not a good idea. Because you take on all of this responsibility with none of the authority, and you'll always be second fiddle to the kid. Always. It's basically a humiliation ritual. There's no benefit to raising another man's kid. There isn't. And yet there's never a shortage of dudes who are willing to do this, to volunteer for this, thinking that it's noble and virtuous. It does, and it doesn't matter how many horror stories they hear about guys doing that and just getting taken to the cleaners and feeling disrespected. They still go through with it, thinking that, well, their case is different. The woman that they know is worth it. It's different somehow. And they have this connection with her kid, and they really feel like the dad. And then there's also this dumb phrase that it means absolutely nothing. I believe there are a lot of stepdads that just say anyone can be a father, but it takes a real man to be a dad, right? And that is just cope. That's all that is. It means nothing. It's the same thing that it's just like when Christians say it's not a religion, it's a relationship. It's nothing. It's just stupid marketing. It's just a slogan that they use to make themselves feel better and ignore the reality of the situation, the life that they chose. That's what it is.
What? I don't really think I'm going to use it much. I don't think I'm going to upload on there because I noticed as soon as I got back on make an Instagram account for the channel, but I was like, you know what?
Oh.
I don't really think I'm going to use it much. I don't think I'm going to upload on there because I noticed as soon as I got back on that social media, my mental health started going downhill. Seriously. So that kind of stuff is really a root cause of a lot of the insecurity we see nowadays. A lot of the reason why people feel so lost and insecure, and a lot of the emasculating behavior. The worst part is you have a lot of people who, again, what I say with selfishness, with success, people who succeed, they want to be very prideful and think it's all about them, not remembering that there is a whole team of people who helped you potentially get to that position. Like when I was a teenager, I'll be the first to say I was very troubled. I was lost. I was confused. I was full of anger and ego. And I did wrestling instead of football because I wanted something where it would be all about me, where I'd be the individual. But what I come to learn is that you have training partners who you drill with and practice with. Without them, you're not going to get better. You have coaches who show you the techniques. Without them, you're not going to get better. It was never a solo ride. Even in my case with this YouTube channel, I'm very thankful to have big channels like Jack Morgan, like Legion of Men, react to my videos. I'm not going to act like I did everything on my own. That's just not living in reality. Of course I put work in, of course I worked hard, but I'm not going to forget, number one, the people that came before me. Number two, the people that helped me along the way. And that form of humility is just so forgotten nowadays. Because, again, masculine traits are being slandered nonstop. Men are being shunned for doing everything they should do, for being who they are. And it's just absolutely insane. And it's not only just their relationship with the father that's being messed with, but I've even heard situations where, which again, this is stuff I've seen online, but nonetheless stuff I've seen, of women saying that not only a man living with their parents is weird, which again, there's nothing wrong with that, especially like I mentioned earlier with the guy who was at university, being smart with his money, trying to build a future for himself. I did the same thing when I was in college, and I would get teased and slandered here and there. Again, lived with my parents, was able to save money, was able to finish university, get a good degree. But my point being is that a lot of women, they're doing that because they want to control men. They want that power over them. They want to have all the man's time to themselves. They don't want him spending it with their biological mother or family. That's what I've seen a lot of the time. And if you're a man listening to this, understand something. You should never put a girl, especially a girl you just met, over your own parents. I don't care what anyone says. Understand something. Your parents are not replaceable. We all know that ideally, they're supposed to pass before we.
Right. If you're like him or anyone else that's able to do that, that's what you should focus on. Don't focus on women, especially if you're young, right? If you're in your late teens, early 20s, you should not be. And any woman that wants you to choose her over your family, that's not someone that you should have in your life. No matter who it is. If there's anyone, if you have a friend that wants you to do that, don't do it. That's a good way to filter people out. You need to be firm on what you want out of life and how you want to spend your time. And to his point about social media, yeah, social media sucks. I also thought about making an Instagram and a TikTok for this channel, and I just decided not to. I did make an X account, and I never use it. Honestly, that looks super stressful. And I hate social media. I hate the idea of making shorts, just going through that whole thing, because shorts attract a certain type of viewer. Because I think that long form and short form, they do two separate things. Yeah, you can draw people in with your short form and bring them to the long form. So, I mean, after I grow more and can outsource it, maybe I'll have someone handle that, but not right now for my own channel. But to his point about when he was younger, like I said earlier, I was a troubled teen as well. I had a lot of pain that I didn't know what to do with, and I had a rough home life, and school was rough for me as well. I had trouble fitting in, and so music and skateboarding were my outlets. And it did get out of hand whenever drugs came into the picture. I grew up in a Christian home, also where the music that I listened to was not liked by my parents. Not all of it. Some of it they thought it was downright evil and demonic. And I get safeguarding your child from certain things when they're younger, but that still went on when I was 17 and 18. I'm not going to go into details, but I had to deal with some pretty ridiculous antics from my parents for sure. But yeah, they were doing the best they could with what they had. I understand that. No one's perfect. I'm not a perfect parent. But yeah, and to his point, yeah, Jack Morgan, Legion of Men, they've reacted to my videos as well. I've had plenty of big YouTubers that have been I mean, yeah, of course I did the work and I made the content, and then it was able to get out there into their hands and they spread it to more people. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of those bigger YouTubers that helped me out. You know who you are. And although last night I did recently, so Legion of Men he was on, and he was reacting to one of my older videos. I was talking about the family court system and how we live in a society that profits off destroying families, which makes it hard to have a family now. And he didn't watch the whole thing, but I mean, and it wasn't some of my best work. It was from 4 months ago, and that was when I was a bit more reliant on AI. And if I could redo that video, I would, and it would sound a lot better. But yeah, he was pretty dismissive. He called me a doomer, and was like, "Well, dang man, he said something about I should just off myself," and then he pivoted to bragging about getting shredded and having a 6-pack and a hot wife. I'm like, good for him, man. Good for him. I mean, who wouldn't want that? Good for you, dude. But yeah, I know he does. I don't believe he has children with his wife, and he's never been through the family court system. So, and I have been in his private community, his Legion of Men community before, the paid one, and I have DM'd him before. I don't think he connected the dots of who I was, because he's reacted to me several times. But yeah, I get it. He makes a lot of content. He's not going and doing a deep dive on every single person that he reacts to, because I don't even do that. No one really does that. That's impossible. It's not possible. It's not scalable. But starting this channel, I mean, because yeah, hearing those things, because he doesn't know everything about me, and so it doesn't feel good hearing somebody speak negatively about you, especially someone that you look up to, because it was his video last year that got me to buy my camera and hit record and start making these videos. So one of his videos was the impetus for me starting this channel in the first place. So, so I've been doing this about a year now, and just seeing what this space is actually like has made me actually more empathetic. I'm still a very analytical person, but and I did have a more narrow focus, more rigidity than I do now. Because after being judged pretty harshly, having a lot of this scrutiny on you, because that's comes with the territory of having a YouTube channel, and just knowing what that feels like, it has really changed my approach to my commentary like this, and how, especially on how I react to these individuals, like this gentleman here. They have lives that I don't know about, and things going on that I probably can't understand. So, but I'm going to stop it right there. I want to keep it around 30, and go check this guy out. I'll leave the link down below to the video. So go give him a sub and help him grow his channel. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.